Nano Machine. By Hanjung Weolya. Chapter 33, Founding of Truth from Father Chun Ma, Part 1. As Chun Yowon was scanning the books, there was one person who was looking at him closely. It was Chun Yuchan, the prince from the Blade clan. He had been focusing on the Blade-related books, but he couldn't stand watching Yowon, who was just skimming through countless books. He didn't look like any of the other princes. Soon, most of the cadets ran out time and left. More cadets who entered, but it was more empty than when it was filled with over 100 cadets. Scan completed. Scan completed. Scan completed. When Yowon's candle was almost at the line, Nano spoke to him. 156 books scanned. While most cadets memorized 1 to 2 books, Yowon was able to scan 100 times that. This should be enough. He had scanned too many books. Jigul Hyun, who was known for having the most knowledge in the force of justice, would know less than Yowon regarding low-ranking martial arts skills now. Nano, analyze all the books I scanned today and save it in the program. Yes, master. Yowon scanned these books not to just learn them. It was because of Subming's advice regarding the experience. From what I can see, my butterfly blade dance is probably within the top 10 in the cult, but don't be too arrogant. Yes, teacher. Even if you have the skill, you need to train hundreds and thousands of times. Training was the hardest parts of martial arts. Luckily, Chun Yowon was able to skip the hard part with Nano's help. The second thing you need is experience. I have perfected my martial arts after countless battles where I risked my life. In that sense, the Demonic Academy is a good place to gain such experience. Those were his teacher's words, but he didn't have any chances to get that experience until now. Only the real fight he had experienced so far was between him and Chun Mukiam. That of course helped Yowon with his simulation, but it was limited as Mukiam's avatar only knew 3 formation. This was where his scanning came in to help. Nano, can you create Guard Zhang's avatar also? It is possible since his basic information has already been analyzed while scanning for the dagger skill. Oh, Yowon was then able to fight Guard Zhang. He was weaker than Chun Mukiam, but he was harder to deal with because unlike Mukiam, who knew 3 formations, Guard Zhang used all the formations of the dagger skill. Wait, then I can make him use more skills. That's how Chun Yowon came up with a new idea. However, there was one more thing he needed to do beforehand. He wanted to look more closely at those sword formations in the blue pearl stone and transfer them to himself. Oh, I'm almost out of time. His candle was almost at the limit. Yowon quickly returned and left the library. The instructor got the candle from him and circled Yowon's name in the booklet. You are free to go now. Thank you, sir. And when he turned, the instructor mumbled, oh, and he wanted to know when you were coming out? Huh? Never mind. Yowon felt curious about that, but turned back to return. Did someone wait for me? He wanted to ask who, but it didn't seem like the instructor would tell him anyway. Yowon looked forward to returning to his private training room so he could transfer the sword skill. The sky was now quite dark. He had to return to his dorm before 10:30 p.m. so he didn't have much time. There was a wide building next to the main building that had 250 rooms for the cadets to practice alone. It was fully accessible after the second test. As Yowon was going in, someone appeared and blocked him. There you are, 7th cadet. Huh? Yowon looked at the boy blocking him. It was Ha Ilming, the leader of the 6th group. Why were you looking for me? Ha Ilming answered with an annoyed voice. What? You think I don't know that you made half my group members become limp? Thanks to Yowon, Ha Ilming had to give up on every formation plan he had to achieve victory with his own strength. Ugh. I'm busy, man. However, Yowon was only focused on learning the sword skill. His thought that he had attracted an annoying enemy was correct. He's not weak though. Do I need to fight him? Yowon then thought there was no other way around it and decided to taunt him so that he would lose his calm. Yowon smiled. Oh, I didn't tell you to leave the room that night though. Oh, of course. Thanks to you, isn't that right? Ha Ilming didn't fall for his taunt. He's not like you know who. Not everyone fell to taunts like Chun Mukiam. Ha Ilming already saw Chun Yowon using the blade skill and he also cracked his ribs, so he was very careful. I have to be serious then. Yowon turned serious and readied himself. Right when they were about to lunge toward each other, someone called them. But 2 boys did not look away as they were focusing on each other. Hey! And the man appeared in between them, blocking their sight. Who are you? Ha Ilming cried. When Yowon saw the intruder's face, he became wary. It was Chun Yuchan from the Blade clan. Haha, you two sure were focused. Chun Yuchan laughed and turned to Yowon. It looked like he had been waiting for Yowon. Yuchan then turned to Ilming. I'm sorry, but I've been waiting for him for a while. Can I talk to him first? It won't take long, please? He then bowed. This was an act that was never before seen from any prince. Ha Ilming became dumbfounded. I have been looking for him all day. Don't give me that crap and get lost. Oh, but I can't do that. Chun Yuchan kept on speaking with dumb look on his face, and Ilming couldn't hold back any longer. He jabbed his fingers forward like a sword to use his sword skill. He wielded strong internal energy with the attack. Yet, Chun Yuchan easily blocked the attack and his hand stopped right next to Ilming's neck. If it was a real blade, it would have killed Ha Ilming. Why you? Ha Ilming was shocked. Yuchan smiled at him. Will you give me some space now? Chapter 34, Founding of Truth from Father Chun Ma, Part 2. A basic movement countering the formation? Chun Yowon was astonished by Chun Yuchan's movement. Ha Ilming couldn't believe he had been overpowered by someone who wasn't even ready to fight. Chun Yuchan smiled. When you took the step with your right arm was a bit rigid and your fingers went off balance. Did you hurt your right rib? Ha Ilming's eye grew wider in shock. Yuchan knew about his injury just by observing a few movements. This guy, he's not like any of the other cadets. He then felt a huge difference in power between him and Yuchan. And unlike Ha Ilming, who was serious, Chun Yuchan was still smiling. So, what will it be? Ugh. Ha Ilming frowned as he nodded. He couldn't dare to go on. Yuchan then pulled his hand back from Ilming's neck. Wait there. It won't take long. Whatever. I'll get going. You take your time or whatever. Ha Ilming then left to return to the dorm. He didn't feel like fighting Yowon when his pride was hurt. Oh, he's quick to change his mind. Chun Yuchan laughed and scratched his head as he walked toward Yowon, who became wary of the man. He was the second prince to approach him after Chun Yukiam. Is he trying to put me down? He realized he didn't have a chance if he tried to fight Chun Yuchan from what he just saw. Yowon gave an order to Nano. Nano, activate augmented reality. Activate battle tutorial with the setting of the butterfly blade dance. Yowon then saw lines in his line of sight, analyzing Chun Yuchan. And as he readied himself, Chun Yuchan raised both hands as if he was surrendering. Whoa, what's with all nervousness? Huh? It wasn't hostile. Chun Yowon became confused to hear such a friendly reaction from a member of the 6 clans. Oh, well. I guess it is natural in your shoes. Chun Yuchan nodded understandingly and Yowon frowned. What do you want? What should I say? I was just trying to say hi to a half-brother? Chun Yuchan then smiled, showing his white teeth. Chun Yowon was shocked. He had been bullied and talked down by all members of the 6 clans until now, and it was the first time he had heard the word brother from one of them. Is he joking with me? Chun Yowon was still unconvinced. Chun Yuchan then bowed to Yowon. It's good to see you, brother. At that expression, Chun Yowon became angry. No matter how he put it, his tone didn't make it sound like they were on good terms. I guess I'm still hated. Yuchan then got back up. He knew what Yowon had been through until now, so he understood. Well, I guess I can't expect friendliness from you. And you wanted me to show you that? No. I just wanted to be on good terms with you. You see, I've come to like you. What? Chun Yowon frowned. It was irritating to hear that Yuchan now liked him. He smiled and continued, we now walk the same path of the blade, you see? And is that the reason why you like me? Of course. You know how shocking it was when I saw you cut the arms of that Lust clan girl with your blade skill? Yuchan began talking about what he saw and that he couldn't forget the moment. When everyone else became wary of Chun Yowon, it seemed like Yuchan thought otherwise. I'm your #1 fan now, brother. Stop jabbering brother nonsense and tell me your real reason for coming to me. Yuchan then sighed at Yowon's continued suspicion and sighed, oh well. I guess it will take time for you to warm up. I'll cut to the chase. He had a reason then. The 6 clans made him swear an oath to never learn any martial arts even after his mother was killed. There was nothing weird in hearing anything. I'm being honest here. Join our Blade clan. Chun Yowon's jaw dropped. Oh, you're shocked? Well, I guess you are. Are you serious? Of course. I've been waiting for you to come out to ask this. Of course I'm not joking, Yuchan replied. He was truly asking Yowon to join the Blade clan. I don't know about the others, but I don't think you are my enemy. I want you to join the Blade clan and stay by my side. This guy. Chun Yowon then realized what he was thinking. He was asking him to give up on the competition and become his subject. You want me to drop out of the competition? Oh, is that what you think of it? Haha. Yuchan burst into laughter and he soon stopped to speak seriously. You have no chance. What do you mean? It's exactly as I said. If you walk the path of the blade, you will have to go through me. But you don't stand a chance. However, since I am now your #1 fan, you will have no problem if you walk in the same direction with me. Isn't that great? Chun Yowon then realized how this man saw him. He didn't even consider Yowon as his competition. This made Yowon even more adamant. I refuse. What? Chun Yuchan stopped his act at the cold rejection. You are not enough to take me in. Huh? Let me give you an offer instead. What? Yuchan raised his eyebrow. Don't stand in my way and I will let you live. At that moment, Chun Yuchan's face scrunched up into terrible scowl. White lines began snaking around Yuchan's right hand and arm, and numbers began to rise in Yowon's sight. The enemy is focusing strong energy in his right arm. Take a half step to the left and activate the second formation of the butterfly blade dance. Chun Yuchan's right arm moved slightly and Yowon took a half step to the left. At that moment, Yuchan's face returned and he began laughing again. Ha 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 ha. Enemy has ceased their attack. The energy focused in the right arm is decreasing rapidly. Yuchan laughed for quite some time and answered expressionlessly, it made me a little angry, but it was funny after I thought about it. Don't stand in your way? That really sounded cool. There was no friendliness in his eyes now. Yuchan then shook his head as he sighed, showing he had lost interest and turned away. He took a few steps forward and then stopped to speak. If you walk the same way, we will soon cross paths. However, you're too far from talking about my life just yet. Enemy is focusing energy into his right hand. There is no intention to attack master. As Nano's voice trailed off, Yuchan raised his right arm in the air and slashed it toward the ground. With the sound of a strike, a blue spark appeared, leaving a clear line on the ground. Blade Chi? It was Blade Chi, clearly in shape of a blade around Yuchan's arm. Only top-class warriors could shape Chi into a certain form. Are you showing off your level? This was to show the difference in power. We'll talk again. Yuchan then left the scene. Chun Yowon was left alone, clenching his fist. He thought he was now at a similar pace, but he still had a long ways to go. Don't think ahead. I need to rule over them, not just catch them. He then reformed his thoughts again. And as for Chun Yuchan, he wasn't all that pleased. He replaced his anger with laughter, but it was for a certain reason. He read my attack first. He was going to cut Yowon's right arm. If he wasn't going to join Yuchan, it was better to cut his arm off so he couldn't use blades anymore. But Chun Yowon had moved out of range before Yuchan could bring up the power to unleash the Blade Chi. So he's not just an ordinary fool. Chapter 35, Founding of Truth from Father Chun Ma, Part 3. Chun Yowon walked into the empty room with the panel that said vacant. He flipped it around to occupy it on his way in. The room was lit by the small candles on the wall. Overall, the room was too small to practice footstep formations. Chun Yowon then rapped on the wall and realized that it was pretty thick. It's enough. This was enough space for Chun Yowon. At least this would allow him to transfer the information without any disruption. Nano, activate the augmented reality. Activating augmented reality. Nano's voice rang inside his head and his eyes shook as lines appeared in his sight. Nano, simulate the formation scanned on the second floor of the library in 3D. I will activate it beginning from the very first mark. A human figure appeared and began showing the sword movements that had been left on the stone. It's faster and more complicated. Yowon thought of using his last butterfly blade dance formation, but he couldn't even defend against one of those movements. This second formation looked like it was much more powerful than the one on the first floor. This is terrifying. How many people out there can counter this? Now activating the marks of the sword formation from a different entity. Now, the human figure started emulating a different sword formation. It was awkward at first glance, but as it began to repeat itself, it also began to perfect itself. When it reached the last 56th formation, Chun Yowon couldn't help but shiver. This is crazy. This is mad. There was no way to complete such a sword formation unless one was mad about the sword. Oh. He then thought of an idea of having the two entities fight against each other, but by using all 56 formations starting from the very first one each time. Nano, use all formations in chronological order to do a simulation battle. Two human avatars appeared again and began fighting against each other. The first battle ended up with the second entity not even defending against the first movement of the original. As it progressed further and reached the 36th formation, it was now blocking a total of 15 out of the 24 movements. This is crazy. Chun Yowon was beyond astonished. He focused on watching the formation countering the already powerful sword formation that was left prior to it. And soon, it was the last formation. Many lines were drawn, and like before, just by the difference of one movement, the original sword formation was countered completely. Oh, simulation complete. Yowon couldn't forget what he had seen. Nano said that the simulation was completed, but Yowon couldn't stop concentrating on the battle. In his head, the two warriors were still fighting against each other. In that imaginary space, Yowon was now one with the second entity and he was using his butterfly blade dance to fight the original sword formation. User's brain neurons have been activated. The energy within the blood points are replicating and circulating throughout the body. However, Yowon was too deep into his thoughts to notice. Nano then stopped alarming the master and began recording the change in the body as data since it knew that this change was not harmful toward the master. After a long while, Chun Yowon woke up from his hundreds of fights against the perfect swordsman. His focus came back and he became confused. What was this? He remembered seeing the simulation, but when he woke up, it felt like everything had been an illusion. It feels weird. Chun Yowon then felt the difference in his body. He felt that his internal energy had increased. It wasn't just a small amount either. It was hard to believe, but his internal energy had now increased to about 40 years worth of energy. I came to a realization then. What Chun Yowon thought to be an illusion was the breakthrough of martial arts. And this didn't only increase his internal energy. Maybe I can do it. He got up and tried using the first formation of the butterfly blade dance. The sound of his hand slashing through the air sounded different. His movement now left a faint trace wherever he moved his hand. Wow! Yowon gasped. There was a faint silver glow on his right hand. Am I shaping chi? The feeling in his hand was the shaping of the chi. He wasn't used to it yet, so it couldn't take the shape of a blade, but it definitely was chi. It's not perfect yet. Although it wasn't perfect, when he achieved 60 years worth of internal energy, he would acquire blade chi like Yuchan. Woa! Chun Yowon shouted in joy. If I absorb the next black dragon ball, it will get me up to 60 years worth of energy. Chun Yowon then asked, Nano, how long have I been doing this? You were in a trance for 2 hours, master. 2 hours? That long? He thought it was only for a brief moment, but it took him 2 hours. If that was the case, he had to return to the dorm. I guess I have to do the rest tomorrow. He then thought to send sword formation into his brain for now. It didn't seem like he'd have the time to transfer it into his body. Nano, send all the formations into my brain. Understood. Transferring. Yowon felt a sting in his head, but that was it. He focused to check and he saw the sword movements coming up naturally in his mind. How long does it take to reshape my body to use these? It will take about 10 hours to complete the transfer. What? That was too long. He knew this martial arts skill was beyond that of any other, but it required a lot more time. I guess I will have to start early tomorrow then. At least it was fortunate that he had a break. Yowon then happily returned to his dorm. When he returned, there were still a lot of cadets missing. They are running late. There was still some time left, but most of the cadets returned much earlier. Chun Yowon soon saw the reason why. Cadets who started returning had papers of the copied books that they wrote down after leaving the library. So that's why they weren't here. It seemed that they had been training privately to study the books they copied. Master, you're here already. Hu Bong bowed as he walked in later. He too had a book in his hand. Did you get something good? Yowon asked. Hu Bong smiled. No, it's not much. My sword skill is too weak, so I copied a footstep skill to help. Hu Bong's clan used swords. Hu Bong thought using the only sword would not work as they progressed, so he copied a book on something else to help him further. Yowon nodded. I guess everyone is going to get better now. This 3-day vacation wasn't just time to rest. It was time to help the cadets advance. Early the next morning, Chun Yowon went to the private training room. They are up fast. The dorm was open starting at 5 a.m., but when Yowon woke up, 2 cadets were already off their beds. When he got to the building, many cadets had already gathered there. Only the ones who put in the effort will survive. Chun Yowon then went up to the 2nd floor and took his spot in the empty room. The room could only be locked from the inside, so Yowon locked it and ordered Nano. Nano, go through the body shaping with the sword formation. Oh, and don't forget anesthesia. Yes, master. proceeding with the anesthesia. Soon, Yoan was blacked out. After 10 hours, Yoan woke up after hearing Nano say that the procedure was complete. He panted roughly and vomited onto the floor. The long hours of body transformation made him sick. This was much worse than before. Stabilizing adverse reaction to the transformation. It was only after Nano worked on it that his pain stopped. Ugh, I can't get used to this. Yoan then got up and clenched his fist. This was much more different than when he learned the butterfly blade dance. He then took off his top. Whoa! It was astonishing. His upper torso was tightly packed with muscles that it looked like he had trained for years. It's not like my body. He felt like he could punch a hole through the sturdy wall. Should I give it a try? He didn't think it would make a hole anyway, and he wanted to try to see how strong he had gotten. He then took a deep breath and threw his fist at the floor. It exploded. Arg! Dust and rock particles exploded out and Yoan heard screaming from below. Yoan waved his hands to brush the dust away from his sight and he saw the hole in the floor. He then looked down below and saw a private training room below. There was rock debris and a cadet on the ground with blood seeping out from his head. Ugh! Chun Yoan groaned. Chapter 36, Founding of Truth from Father Chun Ma, Part 4. Ha Ilming. After becoming a powerful warrior at an early age, he thought that he could defeat any of the princes. And he did injure one, Chun Yukiam. However, since he was not even close to defeating Chun Yuchan, it made his pride crumble. I was a fool. He realized he had to train more and forgot about all his anger toward Chun Yoan. I can't waste time on such a fool. Ha Ilming then began training right away. Like the other cadets, he was going to spend all of his vacation in training. That's why he was up early to train in the private training room. After training internal energy in the morning, and he then proceeded to practice formations in the afternoon. And then it happened. An explosion came from above and rocks showered down. Ha Ilming was struck with a large rock and passed out on the ground. As his consciousness faded, he saw Chun Yoan's pop up out of the hole. That bastard, RRR. Gah! It rekindled his anger. Soon, the instructor in charge of the private training rooms came running with the master key. He opened the room and took Ha Ilming to the medical room. And when he came back, he scolded Chun Yoan harshly. How can you think of creating a hole in the place when everyone is training? What would you have done if he was meditating? You almost killed him. If Ha Ilming was really meditating, it might have put him in serious danger. Consider yourself lucky that he's alive. Or else you could have been expelled. This will go into your evaluation. I'm sorry, sir. And if you ever destroy the private training room again, you will never be allowed to use this place. Yes, sir. Needless to say, he was already forbidden from using rooms on the first and second floors. He was only allowed to use the underground room that the students didn't like to use, but Yoan had no choice. As Yoan walked down to the underground floor, the instructor watched him curiously. He made a hole in the stone floor created with extremely hard rock. Did his internal energy exceed 60 years worth of energy? That was weird. Chun Yoan also asked himself the same question. How did I become so strong? Chun Yoan also didn't think that he would be able to make a hole in that floor. Master's muscle strength and fiber have been increased to the maximum. What? Your body was altered to be able to physically leave marks on the blue pearl stone, thus increasing your muscle fitness to the maximum. Oh, that's how. Nano didn't analyze the data of sword skills this time. It had analyzed the mark left on the stone, so it based it off the fact that the sword made a mark on the stone, not considering the fact that it had been done through internal energy. Wow. Chun Yoan was dumbfounded. So, is this the limit to how strong I can become? It is set to not disturb with your normal growth. So, can you mark it stronger when I grow up? Maximum potential limit of the muscle fiber increases with the growth of bones and muscles. Interesting. He had learned a lot about Nano's usage, but it was always fascinating to know about these things. I guess I will have to grow up then. Chun Yoan then started to try testing his sword formation. His sword moved quickly, simulating the 24 sword movements, but his face didn't express excitement when he finished the formation. What? He seemed as if he had failed. He couldn't accept it and tried doing it again. No, this is not it. He had completed the same movements, but he wasn't satisfied. It felt like he hadn't completed it. He then used the formation left on the second floor. And this time, the more complicated and powerful movement came from his hand. When it was over, his expression turned even grimmer. Why? It even made him angry. Chun Yoan then tried doing the formation that countered the original. His movement quickly replicated the 45th formation that he saw on the first floor of the library. His sword quickly moved through and his excitement spread across his face. It worked. It's perfect. Yoan then moved on to the formation he found on the second floor. It was a success this time around too. He tried going back to the original formation, but after going through both formations, he felt lost. Why is it not working? His movement was different from what he saw from the simulation. Nano, can you show me the movement I just did and compare it to the original movement from the library? Activating augmented reality. Nano then began showing the avatars of two human figures, one with a vague human figure and one that looked exactly like Chun Yoan. Both began to move at the same time. As he looked closely, he was able to see the difference clearly. The human figure moved flawlessly, connecting each movement smoothly, but Yoan's movement was connected but was awkward. And he was a bit late on the movement too. I couldn't do it perfectly. Why? He couldn't understand. He had gotten the information and the muscle fiber to replicate the movement, but it still wasn't perfect. Yoan then sat down to ponder on the problem. He was soon full of sweat and was spending about an hour on thinking. What is the problem? Even if I don't have the energy flow, it won't affect, huh? He then came up with an idea. The energy flow. He finally reached a conclusion. Most formation movements required no use of internal energy to fully function, but this sword formation required internal energy to work correctly. It's the same as the last formation of the butterfly blade dance. He then realized the last formation of blade skill also required the flow of energy within him. Then I don't have the core element of it. Yoan had to settle on having the counterattack at least. It was fortunate that the counter formation required no use of special energy flow. But it didn't make Yoan feel any better. Why did he skip how to use the energy flow when he left a formation? It even made him become angry at the father Chunma who left it. He sat down with gloom for a while and thought of poems left on the front of each stone. Maybe he hid something in that poem. It was nonsense to only leave sword formation. Nano, can you replicate the front side of the stone on the first floor? Searching through saved video data. Nano usually saved what Yoan heard and saw. Soon, Nano was able to find the front side of the stone, found the video in the data, creating 3D image of the stone's front side. Yoan then saw the stone appearing in front of his eyes. Ah, the mighty wind blows, scattering the flying clouds. After I unified the realm, I returned home. How can I assign my fierce warriors to guard the four corners of our nation? Chun Yoan frowned as he looked at the writing. It just looks like a normal poem. Is there something hidden in it? After checking through the internal data, this is the poetry wrote at the creation of Han Dynasty. Huh? It is poetry written by Liu Bang when he returned from his victory over Xiangyu. So, it wasn't written by Father Chunma? No, Master. Chun Yoan was able to see what the poetry was, but he had to find out the secret behind it. Nano, is the poetry have any different writings or letters? No, Master. Yoan sighed. Analyze it. See if you can find any slightest of clues in here. Scanning the surface. A line began to move horizontally from the top to bottom slowly. And when it was done, Nano's voice spoke. There is a small hole at every word of the poetry. Nano then showed unexplained holes in the letter, and each letter had a different number of holes. What does this mean? Yoan began to think deeply into it. Small hole, a hole, is it the blood point? Yoan's heart began to pound. Think, 4 holes, 4 blood points? No. What is it then? Oh, let's look up the book. Yoan then remembered the blood point book that he scanned first and focused on the book, going back to the information. 4 holes probably means the 4th blood point. The 4th blood point was shown in the book on its location. This is weird. The basic flow of energy starts from another place, it would need 7 holes then. Oh. Chun Yoan then finally realized the secret behind this. The first word is comprised of 3 lines, if adding 4 into it, it will point at the 7th blood point. That was the secret behind it. Yoan then began to calculate the letter and numbers to see the blood point of energy movement. And soon, he was able to complete the energy flow that moved through 23 points. Ha 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 ha. This is it. This is it.